What if the reason you feel stuck isn't your life, but the way you see it? Not your job, not your situation, not even your past, just your perspective. Because think about it. Two people can go through the exact same situation and walk away with completely different lives. One feels broken, the other feels stronger. Same reality, different meaning. And that's where everything starts to shift. Because most people don't realize this. You're not reacting to life. You're reacting to the story you've built about it. And that story? It's been running on autopilot for years, quietly, constantly, shaping how you think, how you feel, and what you believe is possible for you. Now here's the part that hits a little deeper. Because if your story is wrong, your entire life starts moving in the wrong direction, without you even noticing. You wake up, you go through your day, you repeat the same thoughts, the same reactions, the same patterns, and it feels normal. But normal doesn't mean right. Now pause for a second. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why does this always happen to me? Or, I'm just not that kind of person. Or even, this is just how my life is. Those thoughts feel real. They feel logical. But they're not facts. They're interpretations. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Be honest. Does this feel familiar? Because this is where it begins. The moment you realize you've been living inside a version of reality that you created. Not consciously, but repeatedly. And that's when it gets uncomfortable. Because it means you're not just a victim of your life. You're a participant in it. But wait, this is also where things get powerful. Because if your thoughts helped create your current reality, they can create a different one too. Now here's the part nobody tells you. Changing your life doesn't start with action. It starts with awareness. Seeing your thoughts clearly, not believing everything they say. Because your mind is not always telling you the truth. It's telling you what it's used to. And there's a difference. But here's where it gets real. Because once you start noticing your thoughts, you'll realize how negative they can be, how limiting, how automatic. I can't do this. This won't work. What if I fail? And the craziest part? You've been listening to them, like they're facts, not opinions, not habits, facts. And that's the trap. Because when you believe every thought, you stop questioning your reality. You accept it, even when it's holding you back. Now think about this. If someone else spoke to you the way your mind does sometimes, would you trust them? Or would you question them? Because that voice in your head isn't always on your side. It's designed to keep you safe, not successful. Safe. Which means it will always choose comfort over growth, familiar over new, easy over meaningful. And that's why change feels so hard. Not because it is, but because your mind is trying to protect you from it, even when that protection is keeping you stuck. Now here's a question most people never ask. What if your thoughts aren't the problem, but your attachment to them is? Think about that for a second. Because the moment you stop believing every thought, you create space. Space to choose differently, to respond differently, to see things differently. And that's when it hits you. You don't need to change your entire life. You just need to change how you see it. But this is where resistance shows up. Because part of you will say, This sounds nice, but it won't work for me. And that thought right there, that's the pattern. That's the same voice trying to keep you exactly where you are. So here's a simple question. Which one are you right now? Someone who questions their thoughts or someone who obeys them? Don't answer fast, because that answer is shaping your entire reality. And this next part, this is where everything starts to shift. Because once you stop blindly believing your thoughts, you begin to see something most people never notice. You've been living in a loop, and you didn't even know it.
That loop, it's subtle. You don't see it at first. It just feels like life. But once you notice it, you can't ignore it anymore. You think a certain way. That thought creates a feeling. That feeling drives your actions. And those actions create your results. And then those results reinforce the same thoughts over and over and over again. That's the loop. Not your circumstances, not your luck. Your loop. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because if you're not getting the results you want, it's not random. It's consistent. And consistency means there's a pattern. But wait, this is also where things start to break open, because patterns can be changed, but only if you're aware of them. Now think about your daily life. Same reactions, same habits, same emotional triggers. You wake up, scroll your phone, compare your life, feel behind, lose energy, delay what matters, and tell yourself you'll fix it tomorrow. Sound familiar? Because this is how the loop survives. Not through big decisions, through small, repeated ones. And the most dangerous part? It feels normal, so you don't question it. But here's the truth most people avoid. Normal isn't always healthy. Normal isn't always helping you grow. Sometimes, normal is just familiar discomfort. Now let me ask you something. If you keep thinking the same thoughts for the next year, where does that lead you? Same place? Better or worse? Don't rush that answer, because that direction is already being decided right now. But this is where things start to shift, because once you see the loop, you realize something powerful. You don't need to control everything. You just need to interrupt the pattern. Just once. That's it. Not perfectly, not forever. Just once. Because one interruption creates awareness, and awareness breaks autopilot. Now here's a simple example. A thought shows up. I'll do it later. Normally you'd accept it, delay, repeat the pattern. But what if, just this once, you paused, you noticed the thought, and instead of obeying it, you questioned it? Why later? What happens if I do it now? That small pause changes everything, because now you're not reacting, you're choosing. And choice is where your power lives. But here's where it gets real again, because your mind won't like this. It will resist, it will push back, it will try to pull you back into the loop, not aggressively, subtly, with thoughts like, this doesn't matter, it's not a big deal, you can start tomorrow. And that's where most people lose, not because they can't change, but because they don't catch the moment where they had a choice and didn't take it. Now be honest for a second. How many times have you known what to do, but didn't do it? Not because you couldn't, but because you didn't feel like it. That gap between knowing and doing, that's the loop in action. And this next part, this is where everything begins to turn. Because once you start acting differently, even in small ways, your identity starts shifting. Slowly, quietly, but powerfully. You go from, "I'm someone who procrastinates," to, "I'm someone who notices when I'm about to procrastinate." And that awareness? It's everything. Because you can't change what you don't see. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now here's a thought most people never consider. What if your habits aren't who you are, but just what you've repeated? Think about that. Because if repetition created them, repetition can change them. But this is where patience comes in. Because change doesn't feel dramatic. It feels small, almost invisible, at first. And that's why people quit. They expect a breakthrough, but what they need is consistency. And that's when it hits you. You don't need a completely new life. You need a new pattern. And this next part, this is where it goes deeper. Because even if you change your actions, there's something underneath everything that most people never address. Something that silently controls the entire loop. And if you don't understand it, you'll keep slipping back, no matter how hard you try.
That final piece is what you tolerate. Not what you want, not what you say, what you tolerate. Because at the end of the day, your life doesn't rise to your expectations. It settles at your standards. And standards are revealed by what you allow to continue. The habits you excuse, the thoughts you don't challenge, the behaviors you keep repeating, even when you know better. That's your real standard. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. You can say you want a better life, but if you keep tolerating the same patterns, nothing changes. Not long term. Because your actions will always align with what you accept. And this is where everything locks in. Because once you become aware of your thoughts, once you interrupt your patterns, once you start shifting your identity, the next step is simple. Raise your standards. Not dramatically, not all at once, but clearly, decisively. You start saying things like, "I don't skip what matters anymore. I don't lie to myself about what I'll do. I don't let one bad moment turn into a bad day." And yeah, that might sound small, but it's not. Because standards turn decisions into defaults. You don't debate them, you live them. Now think about this. Every time you lower your standards, you make life easier in the moment, but harder in the long run. Every time you raise them, you make life harder in the moment, but easier over time. So the question becomes, which version of hard are you choosing? Because both exist. One leads to regret. The other leads to growth. And that's when it hits you. The life you want is on the other side of the things you keep avoiding. Not someday, not later, right now, in the small decisions you keep delaying. Now here's a quiet truth most people won't admit. You already know what to do. You've known for a while. The issue isn't information, it's alignment between what you know and what you do. And that gap? It closes the moment you decide, this is no longer optional. Not when you feel ready, not when it's convenient. Now. Because this is where everything changes. You stop waiting, you stop overthinking, you stop looking for the perfect plan, and you start acting with what you already have. And no, it won't feel perfect. It won't feel smooth. Some days will feel heavy. Some days you'll question everything. But you keep going, because that's your new standard. And over time, something shifts. You stop recognizing the old version of yourself, the one who hesitated, delayed, doubted everything. Because now,